Come be a part of Doc Holliday's Rock Splitting Politics with your host, Dr. Ed Holliday. Hear the voices of liberty speaking all across America. Doc Holliday provides thought-provoking interviews and commentary about the issues and actions that are afflicting this country and what we need to do to get America back on track. Get fired up, get inspired, get on board with Doc Holliday's Rock Splitting Politics right now.
And here we go.
And once again, that's the sound of rock cracking. You got Doc Holliday's Rock Splitting Politics right here on webtalkradio.net. That's webtalkradio.net. I'm your host, Dr. Ed Holliday, and in the world of politics and around the world, rock splitting, bombs exploding in Ukraine. So much to talk about. Today, we are going to go into the financial fallouts of the Russian-Ukrainian War. And if anybody says they know exactly what's going to happen, they're lying to you, because we've really never been at this point. We've had wars in this world since we kept up with history. But we've never had a war at a time like this. Let's say, you remember what they called a peace dividend? When Russia fell, the old Soviet Union fell down, and it helped the stock markets around the world, United States especially, but around the world, started growing and multiplying, and shareholders were happy because new companies were springing up in the old Soviet Union. And new companies, but American companies and other countries had like McDonald's, Kentucky Fried Chicken, FedEx, UPS. We're moving into this old Soviet Union and extending their businesses and making profits, and shareholders were happy. Wall Street was happy. Is that era over? We're going to explore that with other implications that maybe the world hasn't quite got a grip of. But first, let's talk a little bit about, on this show we have talked about Bitcoin. We've talked about cryptocurrencies. We've talked about blockchain technology, because we know conservatives need to be at the forefront of what's going on the cutting edge of technology. And just last week, President Biden, he's biding his time, but President Biden gave out the first executive order about crypto assets or technology, blockchain technology. And is it good or bad? Well, I am happy that it's a executive order. So Congress has not put its full weight behind it yet. And maybe if the Republicans can get in the election, this midterm, then that's when we really need to nail some things down and put it in real law. An executive order, for those who don't remember, it can serve as law, it can serve as direction, but it's written by the president, and it can be taken away by the next president, or Congress can overrule it and set up a law. So these are things that I'm happy to see some movement. The scariest thing about Joe Biden and the people who surround him with an executive order, will they ever make a Fed coin, a coin for the United States of America, a cryptocurrency just for the American dollar? And will they track everything you ever buy, everything you ever do, every penny you ever spend? And they keep up with that. That cannot be allowed. I do believe Congress has got enough sane people, even in both parties, to know that's too much control for a government to have. Just think about what they could do with their enemies. Think about what they could do with people they didn't like. Think about what they could do with freedom truckers, or somebody that may have used to been in the Tea Party movement, or somebody that just happens to be a conservative. It's too dangerous to even think about letting the government have that kind of control. So they would have to be a lot of controls. But this is the first step of something that could be done. And then how far it goes, We don't know. We need regulation. We need something like the internet to let the internet expand. They kept taxes away from the internet for 20 years or more. And so there's something that needs to be done with regulation, but you got to let this cryptocurrency, new technology grow, explore, and it does not need to be held back by heavy government regulation. That's Doc Holliday's take on it. It's time we have got to move into what happened last week. And again, we may have some old war news because it changes every day. And we know that President Zelensky there in the Ukraine is becoming very much like Churchill in World War II, the way he rallied the Britons and really rallied the world for freedom. And Zelensky's got that charismatic appeal because he's courageously standing up just like David before Goliath. But it's not just him, it's his entire country that does not want to surrender. There's rumors that Zelensky was being asked by some world leaders to surrender, keep the tragedy of more war-torn cities and just the devastation. But no, Zelensky says they are fighting, even fighting to the death, to protect and guard their country with overwhelming odds for the Russian tanks and Russian artillery, Russian planes. So what is that creating? It is creating something that nobody really on the world stage had a plan for. They were talking about even the Biden administration and the Pentagon pretty much issued that they could put up a fight, talking about the Ukraine, but within a week they thought the Ukraine would collapse and the government would be gone. Zelensky would be out of the country. That was what they were planning and thinking. I'm talking about the United States. And now Zelensky say, I'm staying, and here we are in 3 weeks, and they're putting up a fight and a resistance, and they are really just confounding every person that was planning these things in both Russia and the United States and Europe. And it's something we have not seen on the world stage in quite a while. I just have to think to the government that was propped up by the United States in Afghanistan. You know, the president there, he was no Zelensky. He took the money and ran. I mean, no telling how much money he ran off of American dollars. But when the Taliban was within way off miles from the capital there at Kabul, he was out of there and he was gone. And then the whole country just fell apart and just overwhelming speed, which, it took President Biden and all the Pentagon by surprise. Why? Well, they should have known a little bit better, I think. It's just funny that we're looking at, there's an executive, president, a CIA report about what to look for in 2022. And they had everything that was woke, white supremacy. They had look out for climate change. These things are going to destroy the world in 2022. And nowhere in the report was a word about Russian troops on the border with Ukraine. It's a little bit scary to think that's the kind of report our president's getting from the people he surrounded himself with. But let's look at some of this, the financial fallouts of the Russian-Ukraine war. There's some things happening, and we talked about last week a trap that Russia and Putin could be setting up for America to fall into. And I'm afraid we're falling into it. And if you can go back and listen to that show, but basically it's been Putin just as much as he has wanted to reconstruct the old Soviet Union, the USSR. As much as he wants to do that, there's something that has bugged him since his entire presidency there in Russia. He does not like it that America, the United States of America, is the world's reserve currency. Now, on this program, we've talked about it several times over the past few years. It's a very important position. It's unique. It's American exceptionalism. Obama never liked it, but he accepted it. I don't know if Biden has ever appreciated it. But what it does, it keeps America living high on the hog, even as we borrow these amounts of money that no country in the world has ever borrowed, and owe $30 trillion. You know, most countries can't even imagine what $1 trillion is, to even make $1 trillion. And yet we owe $30 trillion. And we have an economy that does over 22, $23 trillion a year. But we owe more than we make in an entire year. So this is the part of financial fallout that we don't know where it's going to go. There's uncertainty there. The stock market sure is not giving any kind of sigh of relief that we're seeing anywhere now. And are people buying or selling? Overall, it's trended down in technology since Thanksgiving. There's been ups and downs. But Putin last week, because of all these sanctions, and then America pulling out and say we're not going, an American company said we're not going to support Russia. Well, what happens to the McDonald's, the Kentucky Fried Chickens, the FedEx, UPS, and all these, many companies that have gone into Russia? Well, Putin is talking about nationalizing them. He doesn't want to use that word nationalize, but it's the same thing, letting the state come in and run these companies. Well, if they do that, do the companies just write it off as a 20-year investment in Russia and there's nothing to show for it? What do they do if they start writing that off? What does that do to the stock market? What does it do to the Dow? What does it do? Well, why would shareholders start selling their stocks? Because it looks like it's going to go down when they take a hit. When they say, okay, we're going to be taking a hit. We're not going to meet our earnings because we've shut down our Russia operations. Well, people may start selling stocks. But is that going to cause a stock market crash? It should not. It should not start it. Should not cause it. But it can be another. When they say, oh, there's another stick in the bundle, is that going to be enough to break the donkey's back? Maybe break the back of the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party, oh, wow. So much to say about inflation. Hey, I got a clip I want to play about. They were just talking about the strength that this administration is showing, or lack of strength, okay? I knew some of y'all thought I was crazy when I talked about the strength this administration's showing on the world stage. But Greg Kelly show on Newsmax. Let me play a couple minutes of that, and then we'll take a break. And we got some things to get into on the second half of the show. Again, explaining some of this about the financial fallouts that could happen, and it's just really it just blows your mind to think about how we think, because our economy is 10 times the size of Russia's. We just think that we're going to be okay. But there's some dangerous things happening. It's not just gas prices. It's because of the people we have leading this country and cheering on high gas prices in many cases in behind the closed doors. The Ivy Leaguers, the ones that have taught academia and that have no real world knowledge of what's going on in like the Ukraine. And they're making decisions. They're the same ones who made the decisions to let Putin take over Crimea and build a base to now try to take the entire country. But take a listen to this little clip from, I may have said Newsmax. It's from the Fox, the 5 from Fox. Just a little clip about the strength that our administration is showing, especially one outstanding member of our administration. Take a listen.
What Harris did, however, was bring awkward moments like this.
And for President Duda, I wanted to know if you think, and if you asked the United States to specifically accept more refugees.
Okay. A friend in need is a friend indeed.
Okay, I can first.
Jesse, I'll go to you. Why did they even send her?
Well, Hunter was busy.
Hunter?
Yes.
So snotty.
So, sorry, Geraldo. I don't know whether she didn't know that she was being called upon or couldn't answer the question, because she was just asked, will you guys accept refugees?
Right.
She always accepts refugees. She's never said no to accepting refugees. Mm-hmm. And she couldn't handle it, and she tossed it to the Polish president. That was strange, to then cackle and laugh during a time of crisis like this. Putin's got to be looking at this and saying to himself, and he's KGB, this does not look like a united front.
Well, it's not a united front, and it's a dismal performance by the Vice President of the United States. I mean, she was obviously not prepared. And why didn't she get prepared? I mean, she's representing the United States of America. She is the vice president. She's not just representing Joe Biden. She's representing you and me. And she goes on the world stage in Europe when there's a war going on, and she laughs about America taking refugees. She doesn't even answer the question. And America should take Ukrainian refugees. You know, maybe because of their skin color, they won't take them, this administration. But they have not been taken. Usually this administration wants every refugee they can pour in legally, plus the 2 million that come in illegally. But why won't they take the Ukrainians now? That is a very good question that the vice president just blew off and laughed about it. I mean, that cackle, is that what we're going to hear for another 3 years? And if Joe Biden can't perform his duties, is she going to be the commander-in-chief and cackle to Putin? Well, okay, let me stop right here and remind everybody. You're listening to Doc Holliday's Rock Splitting Politics. You're listening to us right here on webtalkradio.net. And we're talking about the financial fallouts of the Russian-Ukraine War, some things that you may not have heard about, you may not understand. And will it engulf the entire world and financial fallouts? Well, we're going to discuss that a little bit more. We do have a clip we want to play from Newsmax, a little bit about what the power of this administration looks like. And we played that clip in the first half of Vice President Harris. And so we got some from the Greg Kelly show on Newsmax, a clip from his show from last week. But first, let's just let me remind everybody, we do have a book called Bedrock Truths. If you want to order that book, you can go online at www.docholliday.org. And Holliday's got 2 L's in it. We'd love to get that book out to you, called Bedrock Truths, written by me, Dr. Alveda King, and Dr. Alex McFarland. Got a couple more books there that if you want to order those, we'll be glad to get those out to you. And let me just say that we talked earlier about Biden's executive order and about cryptocurrencies. We are a proud, they're not sponsoring us, but we're just a proud owner of Harmony cryptocurrency. Its symbol is ONE, and I'm not telling anybody to buy it. I'm not giving any financial advice, but I am tickled that I have some Harmony cryptocurrency, and I know there's a lot more you can get out there and choose from, but I'm just telling you that I enjoy the tokens I have from the Harmony blockchain, and that's why we got their little clip of what they do right there on our page, because we want to promote it, want people to know about Harmony blockchain, and the symbol is ONE if you want to look it up. But that's not financial advice. I'm not telling you to buy anything. I'm just educating you on something that your host likes, and I think it's got a good future. So listen, now as we get back into this financial fallout of the Russian-Ukraine war, I do want to tell you there's some things going on even around the world. after Russia invaded Ukraine, guess what? Japan, there's 4 islands they've been disputing since World War II. And Stalin got so much of the Japanese land that, goes back. They were fighting over this in the Russian-Japanese War right around the early 1900s. But these 4 islands, Japan has declared, hey, those are our islands now. And since the war started with Russia and Ukraine, so this thing it can involve things around the world. Now, the thing when we're talking about financial fallouts, we talked about what if Putin nationalizes, or in some ways like nationalizes American companies, European companies that are there in Russia, and these companies have to write it off. Does that make their stock go up or down? Obviously, they won't be able to make as much profit, and all their investments for 20, 30 years now could just go down the drain. Will that have an effect on the stock market? But it's not just that. We talked about last week about supply chains, semiconductors. We can shut off their semiconductors, but guess what? To make semiconductors, you got to have neon gas. And to have neon gas, where you get it? A lot of it comes from Russia. What's the other supplier? It's Odessa, Ukraine. So what happens if Putin takes over Odessa? Well, then he could have a lock on many things, including neon gas, but so many minerals that Russia and China control. So as Russia and China are forced into a greater relationship. Remember, one reason Nixon went to China back in the 72 or whenever it was, he went to China. What he wanted to do was drive a wedge between Russia and China, and he really succeeded that. And Biden has come along, and Biden's weakness, now Russia and China are becoming more and more chummy, and that's not good when you got, like I said, Vladimir Putin has hated the fact that we are the world's reserve currency. Who else hates that? China does. So what if Russia and China come together and try to challenge the world's reserve currency? Why does China already have a digital coin for their currency? Well, they want to be the world's reserve currency, and it looks like there's no way it would happen now. But who knows if Russia and China get together and bully other countries into following what they want. These are the uncertainties that talking about the financial fallouts that could be pushed from this war. Look, we're just the world is coming off of COVID, and we got a weakness that's already built into our economies around the world, including America. And then what happens in America? You got inflation now, highest level we've seen many people in their lifetime. I can remember the 70s, and inflation is eating away up to 20%. You know what? You could get 17-18% on a CD. On a CD, and now you can't get a 0.1% on a CD, maybe 1%. But it's wow. But the inflation ate everybody's incomes up. Everything kept going up, and then and gas now, and of course the Biden and Democrats want to blame it on Putin. But gas was going up before then. You know, they have a chart. They showed inflation in America. It was staying steady. When did COVID start? Early 2020, and under Trump and his administration, they were pushing energy big time, and we had gas the lowest it had been in years, and that gas price influences so much of the economy. It's not just driving, getting places. It's all the things that petroleum is used in, all the trucking, supply chains, moving things. It takes energy. So when energy goes sky high, guess what? Everything else has to start moving up. And under Trump, inflation, even during COVID, when they had shut down the entire industries and then poured in $5 trillion, that's all part of Trump. and the Congress working together, $5 trillion. But it didn't cause inflation because we had a robust energy sector. What has Biden done? Well, he promised he was going to get rid of that robust energy sector. We need it now, and we could put the screws to Putin if we could just unleash the American energy. We had the industry had built up 4 years under Trump, and right now it could be unleashed, and Putin would have to beg for peace and beg for mercy. But no, even when Biden says, okay, we won't take any more Russian oil, we don't have our industry up to speed. It could get up to speed real quick if Biden had if he just said, I want to see it done. But he doesn't want, because of the people he's put in the places of power, everything from negotiators, everybody, like when they have to approve gas systems. Our energy secretary, she laughed at higher gas prices just a couple months ago. But he's put people in positions of authority and power throughout his administration who were placed there to push Green New Deal. And the Green New Deal, the sad but behind closed doors, happy Ivy Leaguers are clapping their hands because gas is going up, and in their minds it'll bring about electric cars coming about quicker and quicker, and using wind energy and solar energy and getting rid of fossil fuels. But the sad fact is the people who are working, blue collar workers, black, red, yellow, white, all the different colors, it doesn't matter your skin color. If you are a hard working middle class American, if you're low income, trying to struggle, and you get these gas prices on top of it, and you got this administration, like Transportation Director Buttigieg said, go out and get you an electric vehicle. Well, how many people can afford a $55,000 vehicle so they can plug it in and use gas that costs almost as much as that uses electricity that can cost as much as gas in many cases? Wow. This administration is so just not listening to the American people. And even now, with the war in Russia, and they say we got to help the Ukrainian people, the best way to help the Ukrainian people and put the screws to Vladimir Putin is to unleash our industry of energy. Just Donald Trump, he has the blueprint. Just do what Donald Trump did with energy. I don't care if you hate Donald Trump. I don't care if you would never vote for Donald Trump. I don't care if you're never Trumper. If you're a Democrat that voted always for Obama, always for Biden, the number one thing we can do as Americans to drive inflation down and drive Putin out of the Ukraine is to unleash the American energy power. Wow. You know what? I was going to play a clip from Newsmax. Let me play that real quick. We got to end up the show. But the financial fallouts of the Russian-Ukrainian War, so much of it could be covered over. We could have a robust economy if we would unleash our energy industry. And yet, the people that Biden has placed in the power will refuse to do that. They'd rather see middle-class America suffer and say it's all Putin's fault, when the fault lies in the hands of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and all the Green New Deal people they've put throughout the administration. Wow. Listen to this clip right here from Greg Kelly's show on Newsmax about the power that be here in America.
You know what they got? What the intelligence agencies came up with is what the political masters wanted to hear about. Climate change, white supremacy. Mark Simone, if the boss kind of hints that he wants something in the report, it usually finds its way into the report.
Well, I don't know about you, but the fact that it could be 1 degree warmer in 100 years, that is keeping me up at night. That's my biggest concern. And it's not fair to say they missed it. It is going to be in the 2026 report. That's when if these guys in the CIA would just download the Newsmax app maybe then they'd know what's going on in the world. The Ukraine was all over that months ago.
Okay, Mark. Excellent. Hey, I have just both of you on the messaging from the Biden administration today. More sanctions, that's fine. But I was surprised he enumerated it in this way. Take a look.
Taking a further step of banning imports of goods from several signature sectors of the Russian economy, including seafoods, vodka, and diamonds.
I don't know. I think he could have said goods and services or something like that. Overall, Chris, what do you think of the handling of Joe Biden and the public presentation of this kind of messy policy?
Well, first of all, I think a lot of that vodka is actually made in the United States. A lot of the Russian brands are made in the United States. So I don't really know if banning that's going to do all that much. I think that the real thing we need to be focusing here is on hard power. And in Biden's speech today, one of the things that I found really disturbing was when he said that we won't let the Poles send planes to Ukraine because we think that's going to start World War III. Well, if we just keep reacting to the aggressive moves that Putin's doing by saying, no, you can go ahead and do that. We're not going to confront that with any sort of power. That's just going to encourage him to keep going. So I think we've addressed sanctions. That's great. But we also need to have a hard power component to this if we want to deter Putin from doing anything aggressive in the next few days and weeks.
Well, America does have weak leadership. We know it. The world knows it. And I just, November can't get here quick enough to try to strengthen the Congress so maybe they can have some say in what is going on. But it is sad. It's a sad day in America when we don't stand up for freedom. We send Vice President Kamala Harris, who just hackles through a very serious question about taking in refugees, and she just cackled. So all I can say is pray hard, America. Pray for the Ukrainians, and I hope that we have some leaders that'll show some backbone and some brilliance. And there's ways to help people who love freedom, and I hope we can get those things done. Listen, you listen to Doc Holliday's Rock Splitting Politics. Appreciate you listening. There's don't know what the show next week will be on. It's probably going to be, again, things that are happening because of this war with Russia. Pray for peace. See you next week. God bless you.
Thanks for joining us today, and remember to listen again next week for another edition of Doc Holliday's Rock Splitting Politics. You can order Ed's new book, Bedrock Truths, by clicking on the book cover right in front of you on the screen, or visit DocHolliday.org. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you again next week.